together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, it's going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So, look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have it. Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of concern, I would say, for Georgia in Carson Beck. 3 interceptions once again. His third 3-interception game in the last 5 for UGA.
You can argue if they had Alex Orji as their starting quarterback for Georgia, they would be perfect and unbeaten right now just by not turning the football over and running it with your talented backfield.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Let's go. It's Pharrell. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Pharrell. Coast to coast. We continue on a pain-free Friday as we cross the threshold past 6 p.m. in the East, and we roll toward the bottom of the hour here on C2C with Carver High and Pharrell, and we're still hitting these NBA Cup games tonight on the docket.
Yes, we are. And one of the more interesting ones, the Lakers heading to San Antonio to take on the Spurs. Now, remember, Lakers 6-0 at home, but they're 1-4 on the road this year. Spurs have gotten themselves back to 6-6, and they're coming off that Wemby 50-point game. Lakers -2.5 on the road, 228.5 the total.
I mean, why not take Wemby and the Spurs? What do I care? I'd love to root against the Lakers tonight. And, I'm going to watch the Nets and Knicks over this game. I really am. I'll probably go back and forth, but Wembanyama's been going off. LeBron's been going off. I would love to see Wemby beat them.
The Clippers got to spend a couple of extra days in Houston. They lost to the Rockets on Wednesday night. Now they are back there for an NBA Cup game, or stayed in town, we should say. Rockets -4.5, 215.5 is the total.
Yeah, I like the Rockets. I got to be honest with you. I think they're better, flat out.
Flat out better. I think the Rockets are better too. The Clippers stink. That's where I'm at. Denver is in New Orleans against the Pelicans tonight. Pelicans, of course, really do not have a lot going on. But good news for them is Joker is out tonight. Joker is not playing for Denver in this game. That's why they're only 2.5-point favorites on the road in New Orleans. 218.5 the total.
Well, I mean, literally, the Pelicans have absolutely no one playing in the game. I think the water boy's playing. I think the assistant coaches are actually dressing and playing. I still like the Nuggets.
I still like the Nuggets, too. Like, it's one of those nights where Murray will probably go off, and he'll just carry the mail for Denver, and they'll get themselves a win. Suns are in OKC against the Thunder. Thunder -8.5, 227.5 the total.
I mean, this is a really good game. I still lean Thunder. It's a big number, though. I still lean on. There's no, Slim Reaper. So I think that it changes everything when you just have to put all the weight on Booker and Beal. You know what I mean? Either or. If they're both going,
Beal out
they can
too.
cover. But usually it's one of them going, what?
Beal's out too. No Beal, no Durant.
I like the Thunder. Jalen Williams
So
has been going off since Holmgren went down. Give me the Thunder.
Grizzlies are in Golden State against the Warriors. Warriors minus 7.5, 235.5 the total. Still no Ja, obviously, for Memphis.
Yeah, I just think the Dubs look fantastic at the chase, and Curry's going to light it up. I like the Dubs here and the cover.
And finally, the Timberwolves, who had a rough couple of nights in Portland against the Blazers, got to spend a couple days in Sacramento to think about it. They play the Kings tonight. T-Wolves minus 1.5, 222.5 the total.
You know, Minnesota has been sleepwalking. Give me the Kings and Sabonis and Fox to get it done. They're getting 1.5 at home. I just saw that. I know you're going to do college basketball now. I just saw that Melo's kid's going to go to Cuse.
Yes, I was going to start the college with that, as Kyan Anthony has committed to Syracuse University. So Carmelo's son, going back to where, of course, Carmelo made his mark and won a national title for the Orange. So now his son. That's tricky sometimes, right? That's big shoes to fill. That's a lot to do to go where your dad went and won a title and try to pull that off. But the kid's good, and he's going to get a chance to do that up at Syracuse. So congratulations to him, Melo, and the Anthony family. As by the way, they need it too, because Syracuse hoops, they stink now. They're no good. So they could use a little help from Melo's kid there at the Carrier Dome to get it cooking. How about the rest of the college rack tonight? Let's go. 2 games I'll feature, and then I got a bunch of racks with some other ones. Game of the night, Bama into West Lafayette against Purdue. Bama minus 3.5 on the road. And then later, Arizona and Wisconsin getting together tonight as well, Scotty. I believe that game is in Madtown. It's the Kohl Center, yes. So they are the game's in Wisconsin, minus 4.5 for the Wildcats.
I just feel like that it's going to be a better game. I think the Badgers will cover at home at the Kohl Center, and Arizona will beat them, but they won't beat them by 5. And, it is brutal to win at Mackey Arena. There's no Zach Edey there anymore, but I think I got the Stones. I hate Purdue, but I'm going to take Purdue tonight to, frankly, upset Alabama in West Lafayette.
Wow, Purdue tonight against Alabama. How about that? Should be a good game with those two coming in.
It's so brutal. I remember going there and losing 100 times. It's just the worst place. It's a den of iniquity.
Not easy, that's for sure. Virginia and Villanova getting together tonight. We have Florida and FSU, TCU and Michigan, Monmouth against Rutgers, Nicholls State against Cincinnati, some of our other games tonight.
Yeah, there's all kinds of great games. Look, I think that number with Cincinnati's too high against Nicholls, believe it or not. I like Rutgers and Dylan Harper. I would never bet on that game, though, in New Jersey for religious purposes. TCU and Michigan. I like Dusty's boys in Ann Arbor to get it done. Florida State, man, that's a tough one.
They've already started. They started those top 2 games. So
and Virginia remember game started too.
Yes, it did. So those 2 have started. You got to remember, I'm still in the mindset of us still being potentially around after 6. 8-7, Florida State leads Florida on the early going, and they're actually at the half in Baltimore. Virginia leads Villanova 31-26. At the half in that game. So they've already begun.
I liked them. I did like them. So in game, I'll stick with Virginia. And, in game, I might take a stab with the Seminoles. It's a basketball school now. It's not a football school. And I'll stick with Michigan in game.
Second game of that doubleheader in Baltimore is Virginia Tech and Penn State. So they will play right after that neutral site game there. You also have American and UNC tonight, Marquette in Maryland, Pitt in West Virginia, the backyard brawl on the hardwood tonight, Ohio State and Texas A&M as well.
Yeah, Ohio State's looked really good. They kicked Texas's ass. Why not take them with the points? I like Pitt. I like Marquette. I like North Carolina over American Big, and I like Penn State. But I think the number's too big. I'll take Vatech and the points. I think that game will be way closer than that. That's a 2-point game.
That does seem like a close one that we will have for that. As far as the rest of the weekend, nothing too outstanding. I know Duke's playing tomorrow against Wofford. Everybody else, Indiana's playing South Carolina tomorrow in terms of ranked games. So there isn't much else. Really, that Alabama-Purdue game tonight, that's the best game of the entire weekend for college rack.
I think
Patino versus
Indiana
Patino.
games
There you
at
go.
Bloomington at Assembly Hall against South Carolina. I like the Hoosiers there.
As Luke said, Patino versus Patino, New Mexico and St. John's Sunday afternoon at the Garden. So you have that as well, if that
Give me
excites
the
you. New Mexico and the Johnnies. There you go, to get it done with that. Plenty of college rack this weekend for you.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, it's going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So, look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have it. Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of concern, I would say, for Georgia and Carson Beck. 3 interceptions. Once again. His third 3-interception game in the last 5 for UGA.
You can argue if they had Alex Orji as their starting quarterback for Georgia, they would be perfect and unbeaten right now just by not turning the football over and running it with your talented backfield.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
We got a little hockey. Thank God for hockey. Everybody loves hockey.
Everybody does love hockey. That is for sure. Of course, a major accomplishment last night. By the way, the Islanders won in Vancouver, which was absolutely stunning to me. They never do that. And Connor McDavid, a very big milestone for him as he recorded his 1,000th NHL point. He did it in 659 games. But believe it or not, that is only the 4th fastest to get to that number. Of course, Gretzky, 424 games. Mario Lemieux, 513 games. And Mike Bossy, 656. So those were the three that were ahead of Connor McDavid. And look, that's some rarefied air for McDavid, which most of his numbers do get into. But when you're mentioned with those two... Yeah, and I don't think, and we've talked about this in the past, I don't think that Bossy gets mentioned with these other guys, obviously, and I get it. I mean, Gretzky and Lemieux, right? Gretzky and Lemieux did massive things and put up massive numbers, and did, Bossy, unfortunately, his career didn't go as long. He just ran. The back just completely went on him, and he had to stop playing. The guy did win 4 cups, though. So 4 cups for Mike Bossy, just a total badass.
He did 4 cups, 4 rings, and he was, it was half Lemieux's size.
And the majority of those 1,000 points were goals for Mike Bossy. He was a pure goal scorer, is what he was. Just
that's
unbelievable.
Jersey I'll wear.
Yeah, double deuce, number 22, Mike Bossy, to see him on that list. So good for McDavid. Tonight, we have 5 games for you. So I didn't realize that the Penguins actually have a back-to-back here. So they're going to play tonight in Columbus against the Blue Jackets before they come home, where you'll see them against the Sharks at the PPG tomorrow night. They're favored in Columbus tonight against the Blue Jackets.
No way are they winning these games. They're going to lose tonight. They're going to lose tomorrow. They're awful. I mean, they're like high school team. They are literally the worst. Now, listen, I remember going to the Igloo back in the 80s. They sucked. I mean, monkey onions. They were the worst team ever. And then they drafted Lemieux and everything changed. Before they got Lemieux, this is who they are right now. They suck. I mean, they are awful. The other night when they went to overtime against the Red Wings, they go, oh, this game's over. Sure enough, 30 seconds later, snap, goal, Red Wings win. I mean, they're awful. And Malkin had a breakaway, or he had all alone in front of the net, all alone, one-on-one with a goalie from the circle in, and he still couldn't score. And then they gave it up at the other end because they suck. I cannot believe I paid $400 for 2 tickets to see them tomorrow. I'm going to puke.
You should make the guy who got the flights wrong pay for that too. Make him pay for the Penguin game.
He
got the flights wrong. That's what you should do. That. Washington's in Colorado against the Avalanche. Nashville is in Calgary against the Preds. Vegas and Utah are together in Salt Lake Shakers, and Detroit is at the Duck Pond tonight to see Anaheim.
I think the Red Wings will win that game. I like Calgary at home. I like Vegas and Utah. I like Colorado at the Ball Arena.
There you go. Big night of hockey, and enjoy it. You don't get to go to too many Penguin games at the PPG anymore. So no matter what happens tomorrow night,
I go to one.
Have a good time there.
I will.
Everybody
I'm gonna have a giant steak at this fancy restaurant, and I'm gonna drink I'm gonna have 5 or 6 before I go there. I mean, at least 5 or 6 before I even walk in the place, so that when I sit down, I don't have to leave my seat. People just leave me alone. I'm nice to people, but leave me alone and just let me ride it out, the rum buzz, and watch the Penguins lose. Can I just be, get into a zone right there? I got a really good seat in the corner.
Now let's get to the fighting portion before we get out of here of today. Obviously, we have a couple of fight nights here. We have Tyson and Paul tonight in Dallas as they get themselves ready. Now, I've seen...
Honestly. Did you hear what he said? They're 2-minute rounds because he's such a geezer.
Two 8-minute rounds, and 8 rounds, 2 minutes apiece. I don't think he can make it 16 minutes, to be quite honest with you. And 14-ounce...
It's like you might as well have children fighting.
That's why I can't believe even allowing you to bet on this fight. It's not a real fight. It's not a real fight. The guy's 59 years old. It's phony. But everybody
was phony.
Well, did you see he stepped on his toe with the slap?
Everything's
Of
planned.
course it was all planned. Just like tonight is going to be planned when they go get the ring. Everybody's dumping money on Mike Tyson tonight. And that just,
They're all
you know
going to
what?
lose their money. You're all going to lose your money. And here's the thing. I told you yesterday, I want to see that guy. Like, there's no way that Canelo Alvarez, the guy that I know, will fight this kid. This guy, I'm so sick and tired of his act. Like, I told you I tried to watch the 3-part series. I couldn't make it through 30 minutes of part 1.
Can't do it.
It's so boring. Like, I don't care about this guy, Paul. Like, everyone, why are people so obsessed with this guy? Like, honestly, I don't watch his stuff on like, I'm too old. Is that what it is? It must be because everyone follows him. He's got millions of followers. Like he's some kind of Jesus, some kind of Messiah.
Millions.
I could give 2 Fs about this kid and his life and his crappy-ass boxing career. He fights hacks and has-beens and washed-up people. That's all he does. His whole act is stale. I mean, shut
This
the
Paul,
F up. I don't even want to hear it.
The Paul numbers got into well past minus 200 now. I've seen minus 220, minus 225. It was minus 190 earlier, but because everybody now closer to the fight is starting to come back a little bit on Paul.
Mike
Paul's going
Tyson
to win.
might
It's been predetermined.
He might collapse and drop dead. Literally, right?
It's
keel
possible. It's possible. We'll come back, and I'll see if Mafia can slide us some of his picks for this Jones Miocic Garden UFC card tomorrow night. That we got.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards.
That was
Lincoln! But he had that program was really going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Tony Bennett stepping down and resigning from Virginia right before the season started versus the Villanova team that, folks, I gotta take my glasses off. I can't figure this team out. I can't figure this team out for 2 damn years. And the problem that keeps coming up is the coaching of Kyle Neptune.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
UFC 309 is tomorrow night at the world's most famous in New York City at Madison Square Garden on Broadway. And Carver High's got Mafia's bets for these two big fights.
I do have them for the Garden. Usually the Garden card is pretty good. Obviously, Stipe and John Jones is the main event. Mafia likes over 2.5 rounds at plus 114. I think that both of these guys have not fought in so long. that it will go the distance. Fight to go to the distance is plus 310 to the yes. Mafia knows a lot more than me. These other guys know more than me. Neither of these guys have fought in forever. I think it's going to be Rust City, and the fight will probably suck. Plus 310 for the fight to go to the distance. That's going to be my play in that fight. And then this Michael Chandler is fighting Oliveira, and I know Oliveira beat his ass the first time that they fought. Chandler's the dog at plus 205. Mafia likes Chandler. I do too. Oliveira's been getting his ass kicked the last few times he's fought, while Chandler's been sitting around for the past couple of years. So we'll take a chance with Chandler, Scotty.
Waiting for McGregor.
He's been waiting for. He got to go to an Irish courtroom
he's on
to find
the defense stand in his rape trial. He's too busy.
I got one other. How do I not play the Pride of Long Island, Chris Weidman, fighting at the Garden as well? On the undercard. He's on the prelims.
20 years.
Against some guy Anders, minus 104. So I'll take Weidman as well.
Against Anders Lee of the Islanders.
Against so UFC.
The Pride of Long Island against the Pride of the Islanders.
Pride of Long Island. The Pride of the Islanders. There you go. UFC tomorrow night. What will be better? Tyson Paul tonight or the UFC fight tomorrow night? I guess the UFC fight.
The UFC will be way better than that Shaq show going on tonight at Jerry's World. That's embarrassing. All right,
I wanted to quickly give you
game thing.
Well, this is how the MLB now does what the NBA does, and the NFL, the all team, and one guy at each position, both leagues. I wanted to bring this up only for one reason. They pick 5 pitchers for a starting rotation for the all MLB team. Skeens made the 5 for the first team all MLB, but you're still going to tell me he's not going to win the Rookie of the Year on Monday, right? He's not going to win the Rookie of the Year. He's on the first team all MLB. He's a finalist for the Cy Young Award, and he's the Judge's there, Soto's there, Ohtani, whatever, and Paul Skeens is there too.
That'll be the greatest travesty I've ever seen in my life. If this guy Skeens, who absolutely captivated baseball this summer and stole baseball's heart from every fan everywhere, and then they're going to give it to this kid in San Diego. I can't even remember his name. Jackson Merrill, is that his name? Honestly,
he did make the second team, by the way, Jackson Merrill. He did make the second team,
but he's going to be the Rookie of the Year. And the other guy's on the all first team, Skeens, and he's going to lose. Stop.
Now, this is happening. I believe they are announcing the Skeens on Monday night. Yes, November the 18th. So 16th, 17th, 18th. So Monday night. I know you're not here on Monday, and I am. They're announcing that Skeens Rookie of the Year on Monday night. He better win on Monday night. That's all I'm saying. They better bring me that Skeens money.
We'll talk about it on Tuesday. If he gets it done, but I mean, they're doing something in Pittsburgh with him with a card, his rookie card. That if you can find it, they'll give you 30 years of season tickets, and then, then Livy Dunn, if you find it, she put some more juice on it. She's like, whoever finds it can sit in the suite with me at the games, and then that would be a great advantage. I would take advantage of that. I'd be like,
this is for a baseball card. They're doing this for
his girlfriend.
They're doing this for a baseball card. They're going to give you all that.
Something like that. Like, I'm not that versed in it, but it's something like that. Here's a umbrella finish. 51-year-old woman mysteriously found dead with a wire wrapped around her neck in a New York City apartment. That's just another day on my block. Teacher at an elite Catholic boys' school charged with having sex with an at-risk student in her office. She took advantage of the at-risk student and had sex with her in the office. This is taking it to a new level. A 2-year-old boy found locked inside a cage in Kentucky, littered with feces and urine. Isn't that lovely? Heavenly can of air from glamorous Lake Como in Italy being sold for $11. 100% authentic can of fresh air. GTD is next. Go to ForAllenEvents.com. Let's go Steelers. We'll see you next time on Tyson Time.
Seahawks, I expected a bounce back after that poor performance against Buffalo the week before. They took the Rams right down to the wire.
The Cardinals are the top spot at the moment. That's not going to hold. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are not going to win this division, but they are 5-4. After that, you've got the Rams, the Niners, each 4-4. The Niners, God willing, man. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey ever does come back.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So, look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have it. Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of concern, I would say, for Georgia and Carson Beck. 3 interceptions once again. His third 3-interception game in the last 5 for UGA.
You can argue if they had Alex Orji as their starting quarterback for Georgia, they would be perfect and unbeaten right now just by not turning the football over and running it with your talented backfield.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Friday. And if not, it just got better. We have an extended slate tonight of all kinds of sports, which means we've got you covered here on Game Time's Decisions because we've got college basketball, we've got NBA Cup, we've got NFL to look ahead to maybe, but more importantly, we've got some college basketball and NHL getting us started on this Friday evening. And to help me make the rounds is one of your faves, Joe Madden, to talk some NHL. There's so many great angles for tonight's game, so I'm just psyched to get your opinion, Joe, to figure out the best odds and angles, but most importantly, how's your Friday treating you so far?
Kasey, we have a game with the Pittsburgh Penguins here that we could see history being made. We know Sidney Crosby is 2 goals off of hitting 600 goals on the season. So will it happen tonight or will it happen tomorrow at home versus the Sharks? Lots of angles we can look at today.
Oh, yeah. And then on top of Sidney Crosby, you just got a number of guys either returning to the lineup or with expectations to contribute. But you probably stuck the pin in where we should get things started. The Penguins taking on the Blue Jackets. You got the Blue Jackets trying to snap a 6-game skid here, and then you've got the Penguins looking to pull off an efficient 2-point performance. So what are your thoughts and first angles on this one?
You know, this is a hard one for the Columbus Blue Jackets. I do think the scheduling spot is brutal for them, Kasey. They've been losing these games. They're returning home, and they're back out on the road tomorrow versus Montreal. So I just can't see them getting it done. I do think if you want to look at a player here for the Columbus Blue Jackets to really step up, it's got to be Monahan. Monahan has been able to get those goals. He's been lighting the lamp at home, and for the last 5 home games being able to do so. So I am looking at Monahan for the anytime goal, but all of my other plays are looking at the Pittsburgh Penguins in this one. This team, I think, can get 4 goals in this matchup. They will face Elvis in net for Columbus. And we look here at all of the records that could be set. Sidney Crosby as well. If you look at him for his assists tonight, he's going to make history if he gets another assist. So I'm going to play around with that. 2+ points for Sidney Crosby, along with his anytime goal. His anytime goal coming in right around +145. If you take him for 2+ points, you're getting that at great plus money, right around that +320 mark for those combined. So I think he's going to come out nice and strong on the ice today. We can look at a couple other things here. He's one assist away from hitting that Hall of Fame number for the 13th most assists in the NHL. And then you look here at Erik Karlsson. 1 point here for him because he's 1 point shy of Doug Wilson for that 16th place in the NHL for all-time points among defensemen. So there's a couple of things really to play around with. I do think you really look at these players, look at their points. When we have Malkin and Sid being able to record a point in a game, it's huge for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They've gone all time 390 to 90 to 48. So taking both of them combined for a point tonight, it's plus 118. There's so many things to play around with tonight.
Yeah, and I like the Crosby angle as well because last I checked, he should be on that top line with Bolivier, and we've seen him be that kind of clutch goal scorer if the game remains close, which means Sidney Crosby's going to have to be teeing it up to somebody. So big fan of those. Last I saw, Penguins on the money line minus 130, Blue Jackets sitting at plus 108 on the money line, total sitting at 6.5. Now this is going to be a very good one. Talked with Dave Sherapin earlier today. He was decked out in Vegas Golden Knights gear. I was like, are you trying to drop some hints at the moment? Legally, he was able to wear that stuff because my Tampa Bay Lightning wasn't facing them. That's what he did last time, which was so rude. Vegas taking on Utah. Utah has probably been one of the most exciting arenas to play in thus far this season. Utah's coming off of a great win versus the Hurricanes. Vegas is looking to bring a complete game back to the ice. Vegas is sitting minus 128 on the money line. Utah is sitting at plus 106. Last I checked, total is sitting at 6.5. What's some favorable angles in this one?
Casey, we just have to say it. Vegas on the road sucks this season. Like, they cannot get a win. It seems to save their life on the road. So you want us to lay juice on the Vegas Golden Knights with Mark Stone out of this lineup. And yes, Jack Eichel has stepped up. And this is such a strong team, but this is a strong team in the Fortress. We've got a Utah Hockey Club that, you're right, they're coming off that impressive win versus the Carolina Hurricanes. They were able to step up. One thing that was really surprising and fantastic of what they were able to do in that game is they spent so much time in the box, but on those long extended penalties, I think it was like 7 or 8 minutes in total in one huge penalty for one of their players, they were able to defend it off, not allowing the Carolina Hurricanes to score. I do think Utah can win this in a low-scoring battle out here. You also look at Adin Hill, and I don't trust him. Adin Hill has been allowing those goals to come in for the Vegas Golden Knights, and Connor Ingram actually has stronger numbers than him on the season. So it's Utah all day for me, straight up on the money line to pull off the win here at home. Clayton Keller and all the playmakers here are going to get things done tonight.
I'm a big fan of that one as well. You said it. Vegas hasn't been so sharp on the road. They kind of wait till that third period to show up. And plus, Utah just kind of gets hot in those third periods. So coming off of a stunning performance versus the Hurricanes, I think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder in this one. Predators versus the Flames. Predators minus 126 on the money line. Flames plus 106 on the money line. Total sitting at 6.5. Within the last week and a half, I want to say Flames lose Mantha. But then Predators been a little bit better defensively still. It's always been kind of a little too late for this Predators team as they start to string together their game. So what do we like in this one?
Yeah, two teams gone in opposite directions to what I would have expected on the season. We have the Preds sitting 8th in the Central. I thought they would have been middle of the pack, and Calgary sitting middle of the pack in the Pacific here, 4th in the Pacific. Both of these teams have hot goaltenders coming into this, Casey, and I do think we're in for a long Friday night of unders in these matchups. I'm looking at this one to start off right away out of the gate, under 1.5. You're getting that at minus 104, but I do think the Predators, with what they've shown us when they've rolled into Calgary, they've won the last 5 first periods in Calgary, in the Saddle Dome. I think they can get it done. They're also coming off that overtime game last night versus the Edmonton Oilers, in which we have seen this team coming off overtime really have that oomph in that first period, being able to light up the net. Now, it's going to be hard because Dustin Wolf is in goal tonight for the Calgary Flames, and he's stood on his head game in and game out. He's got a 2.86 goals against average and a 913 save percentage. Saros on the other side here for the Predators is so strong. Over his last 5 games, he's got a 2.0 goals against average and a 934 save percentage. This is a goaltending battle out there all day long. Under first period, under the 1.5, and under 6.5 for the full game. But I do think the value really does lie in the Predators in the first period. If they can hit Dustin Wolf quickly, and then Calgary can lock down on defense. We've seen it happen in the past. It's plus 166 here on the Predators' first period puck line.
We share a brain on all of that. That's exactly what I had as well. Nashville's been the lone team to probably score in their last 3 games, I want to say, but for the most part, both of these teams have hit the under in their last 3 games as well. Capitals versus the Avs. Avs getting healthy. They get Wood back. They get Druin back. They get Nichukin back. So what do we see for Caps taking on the Avalanche tonight?
This is going to be a great matchup out there on the ice. I do think we start off with a bang in this one. I still think we probably finish 4-2 sort of score with an empty netter coming into play. But I think the first period is where we're going to see those goals, Kasey. The over 1.5 in the first period is just too juicy for me to hit on it, minus 150-ish. Both teams to score in the first period, I do think can come into play at plus 144. The Washington Capitals have been allowing more goals as of late, and we still know Colorado, fantastic team out there, but those goaltending issues come to haunt them game in and game out. I'm going to look at the first period, both teams to score. Ovechkin for the anytime goal and Nichushkin for the anytime goal at plus 190.
I love it. And then final thoughts, Red Wings, Ducks, under a minute to go.
Oh, the Ducks under 2.5 for their team total in this one. Casey's the best way I have to go. Plus 126 here for that. I'm going to look at the Red Wings here for Rasmussen, anytime goal at plus 600. He's been able to score in Detroit in the last 2 matchups.
I love it. Great picks as always, Joe. Make sure you guys are hopping on this before the NHL slate gets popping off on this Friday night. And look, I love those picks, especially because you got Alex Killorn, who's kind of been a bit of a veteran presence finally on that second line for a number of people. So don't go anywhere. Stick with us here on Game Time Decisions. Follow SportsGrid over at SportsGrid. Make sure you're following Joe as well. We got more college basketball, hockey, NBA Cup, all the things here on SportsGrid TV. So don't go anywhere. Stick with us on the other side of this quick break.
Together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. Running through the Friday slate, we just talked with Joe Madden about all the great hockey coming up tonight, but now it's time to dive into some college football with Colby Daint, before I butcher his name, to talk with us about some of the top games coming up. And as you guys know, college football today will have you completely covered on SportsGrid tomorrow. But Colby, thank you so much for taking the time to join me here on Game Time Decisions. Look, The college football season is coming to a fast end. At least I should say the regular season. The playoff picture is starting to kind of mold itself, so we need some expertise. We need some help here. So first and foremost, Tennessee, Georgia, 7:30 p.m. tomorrow. I think we got to start breaking this one down.
Yeah, I mean, this one, Kirby Smart's only lost to Tennessee once, and that was in his first year at the helm of being head coach of the Bulldogs. And this is a game I think, if you're a Tennessee fan, you're super mad at the playoff committee, even though you're in. They put Georgia on the outside in their recent rankings, and I feel like that's enough motivation. I mean, coaches are notorious for just creating their own fake content. I remember I was, friends with legendary coach Mike Leach, may he rest in peace, and they would create fake newspaper articles blasting his current team, and they'd post them up on the wall. They'd actually have it printed out like in a newspaper. So, you're always looking for that edge. You're always looking for that edge, and here Kirby Smart just got, I think, served up a nice one. But another thing is I just think Georgia at home, coming off the loss, when's the last time you saw Georgia lose back-to-back games? And then specifically at Sanford Stadium there between the hedges. And Tennessee's offense, really, I know the numbers can dilute, how good they really are. I feel like they've played a lot of they've had a nice schedule, I'll say. I don't think the offense is as good as the numbers represent. The defense is good. But I think the Bulldogs, I like laying that big number. I think they're going to be super focused, much like that Texas game. And really, and another thing is you have the uncertainty at the quarterback spot with Tennessee with Nico, the five-star freshman out of Long Beach there, who seems to be questionable with the head injury there. So even with that, I think Georgia's going to just put it on Tennessee like they have really the past 6 or 7 years here.
Yeah, and probably not a favorable opinion for Tennessee fans. I'm so sorry, y'all, but we kind of saw a couple exposure points, one would say, when Tennessee took on Alabama. And while they still rallied, considering the number of injuries that took place during that game, it was just kind of a tough performance to watch all around. Their offense, let's just say, digressed a bit from what we saw through weeks 1 and 3 to what we started to see as of late, but injuries have been a big part of it. So you trust Georgia, even though Carson Beck seems to kind of be in this mental state where, like, you can count on a turnover coming, and you can count on that turnover kind of being crucial. You can count on that turnover putting the opponent in good field position. So I know that that's a lot of hesitations right now when it comes to Georgia. Your quarterback's got to clean some things up, so we still have some trust there with Carson Beck.
Yeah, long term, I do have my question marks. This is strictly a situational spot. I think he'll get up. But as far as like to win a national championship, like many projected in the preseason, I do have my question marks. I do think this is a worse Georgia team than the past couple of years, probably the past 4 or 5 years. The talent is more spread out in the sport. And also, for whatever reason, Mike Bobo and this offense has not looked good. They've got dinged up with some injuries. And that you can see they're missing, Todd Monken, their old OC a couple years ago. I think that's all added into it. So, I mean, long term for the whole season, I do have my concerns about them being able to win the national championship. But for this situational spot here, I think I do think they're better than I think they're a more complete team than Tennessee is. And then getting them in after a loss, and the disrespect that the committee just appointed them essentially. So I think it's just a good spot for the Dogs.
All right, I love it to respond to some disrespect. Next, we got Texas taking on Arkansas coming at noon tomorrow. You got yours looking better and better after coming back from his oblique injury. So what do you see for Texas taking on Arkansas?
Yeah, I like the Razorbacks here. I mean, they've been a very hard team to project. Obviously, they beat Tennessee that we just talked about. But I thought they would keep it close with Ole Miss, and Ole Miss almost scored 1,000 points, I feel like, on them. But I just think Texas, they played 7 backup quarterbacks last year. They've played, I think, 4 or 5 this year, depending if you deem Alex Orji a backup or not with Michigan. Texas has gotten very fortunate within this run. Now, that's not Texas's fault. It's just the way the schedule broke. But I also think that Texas isn't as good as we think they are because of that. I think Bobby Petrino can dial up an offense there with Taylor Green to really strike fear. Remember, Texas was a bottom 10 pass defense a year ago, even with playing 7 backup quarterbacks. I don't know that that's been fixed. I think they've played just a lot of bad quarterbacks this year. I mean, if you go through and look, the best quarterback they played, I think they lost to. So I know Diego Pavia is a gamer, but I don't picture him as like a drop back quarterback that can really, break you down all over the field. Carson Beck was that one, and Georgia ran away with it. So I think Arkansas, especially this old rivalry too in the Southwest Conference, I like the Razorbacks plus the points here. And it wouldn't even be that crazy to me to sprinkle the money line, knowing the history of the rivalry. They got 2 weeks to prepare, and that Texas's defense hasn't been tested that much.
Yeah, we've seen Arkansas put some teams on the ropes, so that should keep it interesting. What are some of your other favorite best bets for college football coming up this weekend?
Yeah, I like Boise State against out in San Jose at Spartan Stadium there. Mainly, I was on Nevada last week. I knew Jeff Choate was going to give them a game after they passed him over to be head coach. He interviewed there. He's from Idaho. So I think they get it right here. Ken Niumatalolo and San Jose, they've exceeded expectations, but they're still a bad rush defense. Ashton Jeanty's a stud. I also think Madsen will be a little bit more accurate at the quarterback spot there. So I do like Boise. That's one that stands out to me. Tonight, I like the Houston Cougars to get it done. Willie Fritz has got this team improving every single week, I feel like. So jumping on that one as they take on Arizona in just a little bit here. Another one I love is Iowa State. Matt Campbell to get it right against Cincinnati in Ames. So I like laying the points there as Cincinnati seems to be going the wrong direction. Iowa State, I think, can still play for the Big 12 championship.
All right. I love those picks. We got to make sure that we keep you giving us all of the best college picks and angles when it comes to these matchups. Don't forget college football today goes down tomorrow on SportsGrid TV, running through all of the college football games. More importantly, we got some college basketball, NBA Cup, more hockey, and so much more coming at you here on Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV.
Together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Quarterly, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Back at it with Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. As promised, running through the Friday night slate, looking ahead at college football on Saturday, maybe getting into some NFL on Sunday, but regardless, we got to make the rounds through all of the leagues here on Game Time Decisions. I mentioned college basketball. I mentioned the NBA Cup coming up, but I should also mention what the current score is on the first college basketball game going down on this Friday night. Right now, you've got the Florida Gators on top of the Florida Seminoles 42-31. 23 seconds left in the first half. And let's just say, hopefully, FSU can give their fans something outside of the football world, college football that is, to be excited about. So we'll see if that game heats up a little bit more come the second half. Then one of the other games getting going, a bit of a Jersey showdown, if you will. Monmouth versus Rutgers. Rutgers on top 23-14. That halftime coming in 10 minutes and about 57 seconds. If you guys missed it earlier, I talked with Joe about the NHL slate, getting some great picks on the board between Penguins, Blue Jackets, and Golden Knights versus Utah. So 7 o'clock's coming in hot soon enough. But more importantly, to get to that college football, to get to that NBA Cup, we got to talk to one of my faves, and that's going to be James Young. Coach, how's it going? Where do we start? College basketball, I think, is where we got to get things going here, because you got Florida State already underway, and we got a number of games to get to.
Yeah, good to be on with you, Casey. I know it's late, and I know the game already started, but I loved Florida minus the points. Florida's one of the best offensive teams in the country, scoring about 88.5 points per game. I know Florida State's off to a 3-0 start, but they really haven't played anybody, so I'm not really shocked by the score here. We'll see if the 5.5 point spread. Obviously, they're looking pretty good so far to start the game. But to me, it's the Jersey showdown, right? The Rutgers Monmouth game. A lot of it was going to be based off of, and the line moved a tiny bit, but here's the big news. Ace Bailey's in the lineup. For those that don't know, Ace Bailey, one of the top players in the country, makes his debut, had missed the first couple of games for Rutgers. Valencia, the star player, or Jared Valencia, playing his first game for Monmouth, coming off the bench. So not shocked. Monmouth struggles to stop people right now. King Ray set the young team 27-14. Rutgers over Monmouth right now, and not a surprise in that one as well. I like Rutgers laying the 21.5.
All right, and I felt good saying Jersey showdown because I'm officially a Jersey girl now. So I was like, which way do I lean on this one? Rutgers sounds good enough to me. Now a bigger matchup coming in hot: Alabama versus Purdue, 7 o'clock tip off, 3.5 on the spread, 164 on the total. Where are we leaning with this one?
I'm going to go to the player prop, and luckily with FanDuel, it depends on the matchups, Casey. You'll get some games that you have player props. I'm going to go with the best player, arguably could be the Naismith Player of the Year, and that's Mark Sears. Mark Sears' points prop is at 19.5. Now, people are going to be concerned that he's only averaging 18 points a game, but those are blowouts. So you did a little digging here. Casey, last year, 20 out of 26 games versus Power 5, or I guess now Power 4 schools because there's no Pac-12, he went over 19.5 points. And then you look at the fact that last year, being guarded by Lawyer Jones, he got off for 35 last year versus Purdue. I don't think Lawyer or Braden Smith can stop him. Going to look at Mark Sears' points prop over 19.5 tonight in the matchup versus Purdue.
I like it. All right, Marquette versus Maryland, 8 p.m. tip-off coming in hot. 1.5 on the spread, 146.5 on the total. You love these close spreads because you just know you should be in. Should be. We've seen a lot of craziness in for a great game. So what do we like with this?
Yeah, when you look at this matchup tonight, listen, there are two good teams. Kevin Willard starting to turn around Maryland. Kevin Willard, the former head coach of Seton Hall when he went over to Maryland, finally getting it done. But here's the thing what I like. Maryland doesn't shoot the ball well from three traditionally last year, this year. Marquette, very good defensively. Anybody knows about Shaka Smart knows that they defend, and they defend at an extremely, extremely high level. To me, I'm going Marquette plus 1.5 because I think they have the better guards. They shoot it better. They defend it better. Most importantly, they have the coaching advantage. Shaka Smart over Kevin Willard. Give me Marquette plus 1.5.
All right, less than a minute, but we can pick it up on the other side of the break coming up here. Arizona versus Wisconsin, 9 o'clock, 4.5 on the spread, 151 on the total.
Yeah, just basically Arizona's a deeper team. I know Wisconsin has played pretty well early on. They're going to get punched in the mouth tonight. Better guard play. Their bigs are going to beat them up. Give me the Arizona Wildcats. Tommy Lloyd, great coach, minus 5.5 on the road in Madison.
Ooh, all right. Sounds physical. We know one physicality event is going down tonight. It's going to be a big fight. There's also some athletes that have had 2 cents or a couple cents involved in who's going to take that one. But more importantly, let's see what takes place between Arizona and Wisconsin. Don't go anywhere. More basketball talk, or what did I say? Bucket bets? I like that better. Here, Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV on the other side of this quick break.
together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, hey, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek. As I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Back at it with Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. And before we cut to the break, I promised more bucket bets. Leave it to me to have some fun with words because I wouldn't be me if I did not. So Coach James Young is going to continue to rally with us here on Game Time Decisions to run us through a couple more slates. Now, we were talking some college basketball. It is time for us to dive into the NBA Cup. But before we do that, Coach, some scores to update on. Florida still on top of Florida State at half, 44-31. Then you've got Rutgers continuing to stack on top of Mammoth, 32-19, 7:42 left before this one cuts out to halftime itself. So as we move forward and talk some bucket bets, we've got to start with the 76ers versus the Magic. Shout out to my friend Andrew, who is currently at this game.
Well, shout out to Andrew, who's going to get himself a good game. Kasey, Philadelphia hasn't looked good, right? We all know this, right? Embiid did not look. Someone said Joel Embiid. That was pretty funny. That Joel Embiid looked like Shaq with the Phoenix Suns. I mean, which
oh my gosh,
I think is quite comical. But this guy Tyrese Maxey still not back here. So maybe what we're looking at it is Kelly Oubre. He needs to step up. But to me, it's got to be the play of PG-13, or I guess it's PG-8 now, and Joel Embiid. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the 76ers plus the points. I think it's a big game for them because they're slipping behind the standings quickly. Also, they don't want to go 0-2 in this NBA Cup in their group. So to me, I'm going to go ahead and take Philadelphia plus the points. It's now 2.5. Also, remember, they're 4-0 against straight up the last four matchups. Remember, no Paolo Banchero still. I'm taking a chance here. Give me the 76ers plus the points. I think they actually steal this game on the road.
Interesting. Well, also, I should thank you because I will never be able to unsee that reference to Shaq. So appreciate that one very much, Coach. We got the Nets taking on the Knicks. 8.5 is what I'm seeing on the spread currently over at FanDuel. And then the over-under is at 215 points. What are our thoughts with this matchup?
Well, when I gave my plays to our great producer, Chris Kofsky, I had the Knicks. It was at 113.5. But, folks, do know Cat out, McBride out. So that's your best perimeter shooter at times, and Deuce out. And obviously, Cat, who's been absolutely fantastic coming off a 46-point game versus Chicago. I'm going to go ahead and go opposite of what I originally said. I'm going to go under now. It's 111.5. I'm going to go under. I think Tips plays this game close to the vest. Jericho Sims doesn't stretch the floor like Cat. And then obviously you look at the fact of that they may be better defensively with a rim protector now and Jericho Sims. I think the Knicks win. I don't know the cover. I think they go to their defense here. Knicks team total under 111.5.
All right, that sounds good to me. Then we got the Nuggets taking on the Pelicans. This spread currently on FanDuel is sitting at 2. Total sitting at 218. What say you, Coach?
Well, this is another spread that has moved because obviously Nikola Jokic, who was off to a tremendous start, is out tonight for Denver for personal reasons. But I don't think that changes what I think, Kasey, to be honest with you. The Pelicans they're like a mass unit. I mean, they're all hurt. I mean, a kid may walk into the gym and be out for 4 weeks for a busted fingernail, for goodness sake. They got 5 out of their top 7 people out. So to me, I understand no Aaron Gordon, no Nikola Jokic, but the Nuggets have been 4-1-1 against the spread their last 6 games. You see other guys step up. Jamal Murray steps up. Michael Porter Jr. steps up. Obviously, we see Nikola Jokic there not playing tonight. So I look at guys like, Jamal Murray, obviously Michael Porter Jr., Christian Brown. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the Nuggets minus the points. If the money line is under 150, just take them on the money line.
Okay. Moving along the NBA Cup slate, we've got the Wizards and the Hawks. Now, 9 on the spread, 241.5 on the total. What do we like in this one?
Shout out to the one Washington Wizard fan I know in this entire world, and that's Sammy Yarnell. And hopefully he doesn't start talking to my ear. I'm hoping he's actually off tonight. But this being said, I'm going with Kyle Kuzma. Wait, Kyle Kuzma. Folks, it gets better. I'm not going points. I'm going over 1.5 rebounds plus assists for Kuz. 5 straight games versus Atlanta. Atlanta shoots the ball a lot. They play poor defense. Kuz gets busy, over 8.5 rebounds plus assists.
All right. That's a good shout out for Sam, because I know that sometimes there's a lot of stress here when it comes to trying to support your favorite team or feeling like you can't support your favorite team because the numbers are just stacking against them. So the shout outs do mean everything. We got the Clippers versus the Rockets. Number of people kind of loving what the Clippers can potentially bring to the courts tonight. In this one, 5 on the spread, 215 on the total is what I'm currently seeing.
Yeah, this will be an interesting matchup because they just played a couple of nights ago and the Rockets covered the spread. For me, I'm going to go with Ivica Zubac. Yeah, you heard it. Kasey, I'm a big man coach. I like the bigs. So the bigs got to get some love tonight. And I'm going to Ivica Zubac. Yes, folks, I'm going to say it one more time. Ivica Zubac over 24.5 points plus rebounds. Over 3 of the last 4 games. To me, styles make fights, right? Alperen Şengün, strong offensive player, don't want to smoke, don't play a lot of defense. That's where Ivica Zubac gets busy. They need him to score and get some rebounds. Ivica Zubac over 24.5 points plus rebounds.
See, that's the definition of a big man bucket bet. I'm telling you, you can just do so much basketball bets. They just continue to riddle on. Moving up north, true north that is, Pistons taking on the Raptors. 3 on the spread, 225 on the total. What do we like in this showdown?
Are you ready, folks? I am coming on back to Detroit basketball. I like it. Kasey, I like what this team's doing right now. I mean, I know they got Tobias Harris, and Tobias Harris is terrible, but he's not playing bad. And the Pistons they've been competitive. Listen, they had that game. It took a 59-piece by Giannis to beat them in overtime a couple of nights ago. They won against Miami. Well, Spoelstra forgot his timeouts. But against the team of the Raptors who can't win worth a lick. I know this sounds crazy, folks. I'm going Detroit basketball on the money line up north.
All right. You and a lot of people have Detroit disturbing the peace up north. I'm not going to hop on this one just because I don't want to disturb the peace up north. Now, a lot of people think that I'd be a Miami Heat fan as a Miami-born gal, but I am not. Heat taking on the Pacers tonight, 4.5 on the spread, 228.5 on the total. What do we like in this one?
Yeah, I like the Pacers. I thought that, this team is going to be able, they're starting to play better, get up and down the floor. I know they lost their last game versus Orlando. I don't think they double up and lose to Miami. I like them to go ahead and cover the spread at home. By the way, Kasey, like, you're a young kid, and now you just said, like, you've made some references over the weeks and months I've gotten to know you, and now you dropped the ludicrous, disturbing the peace. I mean, bravo, Kasey. Bravo. Very
You're
impressive.
so
very
welcome.
impressive.
That's what happens when you're the youngest sibling. So I'm the baby of two older sisters. I was very well educated culturally on a lot of things. And then sometimes ignorance is bliss. I promise you that. But yep, I could say that there's some things that I remember, Coach. Do you have an underdog yet? I know it's pretty early. NBA just got started, but is there a team that everybody just needs to keep a really close eye on?
Yes, the Grizzlies. I know. Warriors have been great. But you remember they played the playoffs back then. They were playing, whoop that trick. Now it's in Golden State. But I'm telling you, I got a feeling Grizzlies plus the points, maybe even sprinkle on the money line. I think they may steal it.
There we go. As the cool kids say, put a little beer money on it, a little pizza money on it. What say you? Coach, thank you so much for joining me for college basketball as well as NBA. Don't go anywhere. Stick with us here on SportsGrid.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people. What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. It's time to keep this Friday night rolling along. We've talked hockey, we've talked basketball, college, and NBA Cup. Now it's time to hang out with Scott Wetzel and talk all the things. We're going to go from college football, hockey, and so on and so forth. First and foremost, Scott, how are you? We rarely ever get a chance to chat, so this is actually pretty cool that we get to finally hang out on a Friday night.
Yeah, we kind of passed the torch on weekends, on Saturdays with our updates, but never really going to get a chance, to kind of sit down and just kind of go over things. Maybe, who knows, if we got time, Case, maybe we'll throw a little boxing. Dare I say it? I might just because it's there, even though I don't want to fall prey to this goofiness of Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. But, it's a Saturday night. Why not? It's not going to go off, I don't think, at 1 o'clock in the morning. So hopefully it'll happen, within the next few hours, actually. So why not put a couple of shekels on that as well?
I think we should probably touch on a little bit. To be honest, do I care much about it? No, but there are some athletes that have had some comments on it, so we'll touch base on it. But yeah, other than playing a little hot potato with our conversations on Saturdays for college football and in-game live, sticking with college football for a second, let's talk some North Texas versus UTSA. Spread sitting at 1.5, total sitting at 72.5 for this college football matchup.
Yeah, the three decent. We actually got 4 games tonight. Not great, but 3 that are at least halfway decent. Little step above the MAC action. This being one of them. Texas San Antonio at home, laying only 1.5 against North Texas, which I don't know what happened last week with this North Texas team. They averaged 40 points a game, and somehow or another they only scored 3 against Army, which is just. It was perfect weather as well. They've fallen off a cliff. Good little start to the season for them, but they've lost 3 in a row. North Texas, meanwhile, really good at home. 5 straight home wins dating back to last season. They're 4-5. This is the time of the year, Case, where you start looking for teams that are just looking for something to play for. This team is looking to play to become bowl eligible. They need 2 wins. They're at home. Basically pick them against a mediocre team. Give me North Texas laying 1.5. Or give me a Texas San Antonio, rather, laying 1.5 against North Texas.
Yeah, you got to fill some of those lower bowl slots, that's for sure, because it gets interesting. You get Fiesta chips, you get all these weird prizes at the end of it all. 9 p.m. tonight, UCLA taking on Washington. 4.5 is currently what I'm seeing on the spread. 46.5 on the total.
Yeah, listen, we watched UCLA at the beginning of the year, and man, they looked awful. Barely beat Hawaii, got blown out by Indiana their first 2 games, and we're thinking, oh my goodness, Deshaun Foster, what'd you walk yourself into? And we find out Hawaii's actually not that bad, and they did beat them, and then we find out Indiana's great, so that 45-3, I believe, was lost to Indiana. As bad as it sounds, it isn't the worst thing in the world, and they actually turned things around. They've won 3 straight, including 2 on the road against competition like this, like Washington, a mediocre football team. Give me UCLA. They're 6-1 against the spread. Their last 7 games overall, 6-1 against the spread on the road. Believe it or not, is this Bruins team. So you're getting over a field goal. You're getting over the magical 4 number with the hook as well. Should be a field goal type of game. So give me UCLA plus the 4.5 at Washington.
I'm happy to root for UCLA. Another team I am happy to root for is Houston. They've really had some good teams against the ropes this season, and plus their defense is so much more we're talking about than I think they even get the credibility for, but that's my rant on Houston and this matchup. 1.5 on the spread, Houston, Arizona, 46.5 on the total. What do we like in this?
Yeah, here's another team, Houston, like UCLA. Boy, first few weeks of the season, they were awful. Back-to-back shutouts. They couldn't score with a $20 bill at a cheap brothel house, right? I mean, who would put American money on them? But they've turned things around. They've won 3 of the last 4. Arizona, meanwhile, just the opposite. Decent little start. They've not lost 5 in a row. That they can't buy a win. I don't know why they're the favorite, except for being at home. So naturally, I guess the boys in Vegas got to make them the favorite. But who in Arizona on a Friday night is going to go out of their way to go watch a Houston game, right? You're going to have nobody in the stands. So give me Houston. Give me the hot team. The home field advantage this time of the year, Case, it really doesn't matter. You're not getting a sold-out crowd in the Northeast stadiums with these mediocre to bad football teams. The boys in Vegas, they state the importance of home field advantage this late in the season. So give me Houston plus the point. Maybe buy it up to 2 just for blanks and giggles and grab Houston, and I think they win outright.
All right. See, there we go. More love for Houston. Now, let's pivot over to the NBA Cup. We got some picks from Coach earlier, but there's always so many angles and great pieces to lay when it comes to these matchups. Wizards versus the Hawks. What do we like in this matchup?
Yeah, listen, you have to go over. It's a monster number, right? 241.5. How could you bet an over in a game like that? But, boy, the trends just say over. We know Washington doesn't play any defense. They can't spell defense, let alone play it. So you know they're going to put a ton of points on the board, right? Atlanta, going back to last year, 13-2 over at home where this game is. This season, 10-2 over their 12 games. I mean, they're just not playing any defense whatsoever. Games are going over this 241.5 total. I think this is the first time it's been this high, but you know what? The boys in Vegas, they're begging to take the under case. Don't do it. Give me the over 241.5.
Don't swing with the over. I like it. What about Nuggets, Pelicans before we touch on some late night hockey?
All right, give me Denver, laying 3. Same thing. Great team, hot team. They won 5 straight, covered 4 of those 5. New Orleans, everybody's hurt. You and I could play for the New Orleans Pelicans these days. Give me Denver laying the 3.
All right, quick pivot to some ice talk. We got the Capitals taking on the Avs. Avs roster starting to fill back out, at least offensively, where we can trust it to get a number of players back. What do we like between the Capitals and the Avs?
Yeah, I love these hockey plays tonight. Give me over 6.5. Avalanche 11-6 over. They give it up the second most goals in the Western Conference. Take it on Washington 8-5-2 over. They've scored the second most goals in the Eastern Conference. That's an absolute over combination.
Yeah, we can't trust the Tendy. Then you got Predators versus the Flames. I love the under on this one because who knows what we're going to see. But what do we like in this?
Under. Great under trend. Series 4-1 under last 5 meetings. Nashville 8-1 under their last 9 road games. Calgary 8-1 over their last 9 games overall. 6.5. I mean, you can't really go, I don't know how anyone can bet it over. I'm a little surprised. It is actually, 6.5 and not 5.5, but we'll bite. We'll go under 6.5 of those under trends.
I was shocked too. And does Vegas pick up a win on the road tonight, or does Utah stay hot at home?
I'm not big on taking a puck and a half because you got to lay over 2-1, but I'm going to take a stab at Utah here, Case, plus 108. They're 9-1 in 1-goal games against Vegas. So the last 10 meetings they've played, it's been a 1-goal game. Haven't won a lot of those, but they've been in it. So maybe you score early, get a chance to hedge, start initially with the plus 108 Utah versus Vegas.
And I'm hoping they're feeling themselves after besting the Carolina Hurricanes. That was a big performance for them to pull off there. So make sure you join Scott for In-Game Live and follow SportsGrid over at SportsGrid as well as Scott. Stick with us here on Game Time Decisions as we've got another rally on the other side of this quick break.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? Because I was looking down and did not know we were getting...
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. Still hanging with Scott Wetzel, talking about all of the exciting sports going on across the leagues right now. We were still talking some hockey before we cut to the break, so let's pick up where we left off somewhat. Actually, right before we went to the break, we had the Blue Jackets that were up 1-0 over the Penguins. Now that has just gone to 2-0 as we move along here. We know the Blue Jackets are trying to break a 6-game skid, but the Penguins, I mean, where do we even start with this one, Scott?
I tell you what, this was on my list of like, boy, throw one more at you. I didn't know how much time we would have. I don't, I'll bet it just because I'll bet 5,000 things. What's the difference? But I did like the over. I did like the over in this game. It's now 7.5, which still isn't bad because as you mentioned, 2-0, and you're only halfway through the first period. All the good trends, unless you thought it was actually going to land on 7, is still in play. 10-3 over their last 13 meetings. Pittsburgh 9-8-1 over for the season. Doesn't sound that great, but just know they've given up the most goals in the league, 71 goals. So I don't know how it's only 9-8-1 over for them for the season. It is, but just know they can easily give up 5-6 goals all by themselves. And then Columbus 7-2 over at home, their last 9 home games, and then 10-5 over their last 15 games this season overall. So again, a lot of overs. Not sure why I didn't include that. Now that I go over some of these trends, it's like, what was I missing there? So I don't know what else you need to know, but I would still play the over 7.5. I would. I still think it's a pretty good play because this has got 5-3, 6-4, something goofy like that written all over it, Kasey.
Yeah, mess. We could see a lot of mess here. And plus a trend or something that our good friend Dave Sherapan has noted before is that his unfortunate Penguins team lets up the most odd man rushes in the league right now. So you got a young, pretty quick sometimes Blue Jackets team. They can continue to roll if need be. What do we think about this Red Wings versus Ducks matchup later on tonight at the 10 o'clock hour? You got a Ducks team that has been able to kind of keep it close, but a lot of that comes down to goaltending, and Red Wings who have so much offensive power, but sometimes it takes a minute to get them going.
Yeah, and they perform a little bit better at home than they do on the road. I'm going to go under. I won't lay. I can't take Anaheim, right? Who could actually do that? But I'm not going to lay $1.50, $1.60 with Detroit on the road. Who can really do that, right? So let's look elsewhere. Over under, our best friend. Let's go under. 4-1 under their last 5 meetings. Detroit on a nice 5-0 under run, and then Anaheim on the season, one of the best under teams in the NHL. 10-4-1. They don't score a lot of goals. Defense has been actually pretty good, goaltending wise. So give it the under 6.5 if you could find it 6.5 or 5.5. Either way, it's still play the under.
I can roll with that one. Now another pivot back to the NBA. Earlier I decided to call it some bucket bets, but we cut it short. We got the Clippers versus the Rockets. What's your opinion on this one?
Yeah, back to the well. It's the second meeting they've had in 2 days. They played Wednesday night, landed right smack on the number 214, which is why I imagine the boys in Vegas didn't flip this too much further from that. 214.5, get yourself a little extra hook. Both strong under teams, LA and Houston, identical under records, 7-4-1, which is surprising, but I think the Rockets are realizing can't outscore teams 135 and 120 every single night. They're trying to do the right thing, play some good defense. Clippers have always played good defense, Case. So let's go under 214.5. After just playing 2 days ago, each one knows their offense. Generally, these second games are a little bit lower scoring when they're going to be competitive. So under 214.5.
All right, let's keep this dance going. One more twirl, another sport to jump into. Rumor has it there's a boxing match going on. And plus, we were talking about hockey a moment ago. You got Evander Kane that apparently wants to go hand-to-hand with Jake Paul. But regardless, Jake Paul, Tyson, what do we think about this one?
I won't tell you what I really think about it, but a couple things to remember before you put your money down on this. First of all, only 8 rounds, not 10, 12, or what have you. The rounds are only 2 minutes, not 3-minute rounds, or not 5-minute rounds like MMA. So, if you think Tyson's not going to have the gas to go these rounds, just know that they're 2 minutes. Also, I'll tell you, the line is going up on Tyson. Everyone seems to be betting Jake Paul. This was -2 yesterday. It's now -225. You can get Tyson now at +205. Don't be me. I put Tyson in yesterday at +185. I don't know. You know what? Give me Mike Tyson. You want to give me 2-1? I know the guy's 1,000 years old. And I know Jake Paul, looking at the press conference, he's a big boy. He's either roided up or pumped up or whatever, but he's not the same as he was a few years ago. He's big. I will tell you that. But give me the 58-year-old man. Why not versus the young dude?
He should. When you talk boxing, you talk technique, and while Jake Paul has been entertaining and shown some things here and there, sometimes you can't bet against technique. I don't know. At least that's what my father would tell me. And plus, I'm pretty sure he's one of the smartest men I know. Still rocking a mullet by choice. That's questionable. But outside of that, one of the smartest men that I know. Make sure you're following Scott Wetzel on social media as well as SportsGrid over at SportsGrid. Continue to hang with us here at Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid.
Together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Quarterly, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma will do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You are watching Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV, running through the Friday slate, Saturday look ahead, as well as some action on Sunday. So let's dive into some of the scores that are already going on around the leagues. We were already talking about some college basketball. Right now, we've got Florida versus Florida State back in action. Florida on top 56-45 over the Seminoles, 13-14 as the second half just got going along here. Then Rutgers versus Monmouth, 47-30, Rutgers on top. One of the main point outs here was the fact that Rutgers has, I believe, the second and third top recruit in the nation. Finally, Ace Bailey was able to participate. He had a hip injury, wasn't able to get in the mix there. So both of these teams actually had some guys come off the bench or out of the locker room, finally able to get in on the action. Cincinnati on top 25-15. Alabama, Purdue getting going. Purdue holding the lead here 21-17, 8:50 left in the first half. So that's college basketball. We talked some bucket bets with Coach. We even got some information from Scott Wetzel. Heading over to the NBA Cup, as I mentioned, shout out to my dear friend Andrew at the 76ers versus the Orlando Magic game. Magic ahead 24-15, 2:19 left in the first quarter there. Then you've got the Raptors holding the lead 27-22 over the Pistons with 2:49 left in the first quarter. A lot can shake up in that time. Then deadlock currently 22-22 Heat Pacers, 2:32 left in the first quarter. We'll see what shakes out. And these scores, then we love how quickly the scores can just change around. That's what fast-paced hockey is for you. You got the Penguins that put themselves within one 2-1 is the Blue Jackets leading as the first period winds down. 6 minutes and 12 seconds left. And leave it to the Sidney Crosby line to get them on the board. But who better to talk Penguins and, everything else going on than my line mate, my dear friend, Dave Sherapan. We already talked about the fact that we're going to be having this conversation, hanging out tonight. You changed your outfit. What's going on, Dave?
Hi, good to see you, Case. Yeah, we get, we killed a 5-on-3 before, and now I think we're on a 5-on-3. We got multiple shifts here. Take this one home to get to in-game live with me and Wetzel. All good, except the Penguins goaltending. What are we going to do? This is just, playing from behind every game. They give up the first goal, first period over, game over. It's not good, Case. It's the end. I feel like we're seeing the end of all those mid, 2016, 2000 Crosby and Malkin winning cups and Fleury and that. It's done.
It's
bummed
the
out.
end of the world as we know it. Leave it to me to always find a song to chime in here in the mix. But you said it. The Penguins, the slow starts don't help, but then they tend to have these third periods or tie things up and force things into overtime, but goaltending and everything else. But we are seeing the end of an era. Now, sticking with the hockey theme, even though you and I talked about hockey earlier today on NHL Today, we do have a number of games coming up here, but I do want to talk about this Capitals-Avalanche game. Penny's not very trustworthy for the Avalanche, but they're loaded when it comes to their top six guys. You get Miles Wood back. He's bottom six, but you get Miles Wood back. You get Druin back. You get Nichushkin back. You get all these guys back into the mix on top of the fact that McKinnon's been playing out of his mind. Rantanen's been playing out of his mind. So what do we like in this matchup between the Capitals and the Avalanche?
It's hard to go against the Avalanche when they're at home. And then you start to look at the price and you go, okay, have we gotten too high? I know from the book standpoint, you try to find that high point where someone's actually going to bet the Caps. I don't think it's there yet. I think you can comfortably lay 170. And listen, the Caps, we've talked about it again. We didn't specifically mention them today on NHL Today, but if you're watching hockey, you're going, the Caps are the maybe the best story in hockey, at least in the beginning, from a surprise standpoint, right? The Jets, historically, are one of the best starts ever. Yes, that's kind of a surprise, but they were slated to be good. The Caps weren't. So, I don't know. This is one of those situations where I don't think the Avalanche are going to blow them out. I think the Avalanche will win, but you might get a good sweat out of this, Case.
Oh, yeah, you will. Because the Capitals, sometimes they can be really strong defensively, and then other times you're looking at, 3-3 apiece and then potentially heading into overtime. So good game nonetheless. You mentioned a key word, though, line mate. You said surprise. And you know what surprised me? Seeing the Oilers get off to a pretty wicked, weird start. You got Connor McDavid picked up .1000, joined that club yesterday, youngest guy to do it, fourth fastest to get it done. But you sent me something earlier. What do the Oilers look like when it comes to the playoff conversation with the wonky start, but they've got obviously a generational talent leading that team?
Because they came into the season near the top of the list in the preseason odds to win the Stanley Cup and coming off getting to the seventh game of the Stanley Cup, when you start high, it's kind of like the college football. Like when you start high, you have a little bit more of a leniency, a little more rope to play with. You start to move those numbers, and we'll get to it at some point with, the NHL show and different things. You got to start looking at making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. There's good bets to be had in that if you can get ahead of it. I'm convinced now the Penguins aren't going to make the playoffs. And it's November, and it's a bummer to say that 20 games in, but they're not. But you'll see this price fluctuate on the Oilers when you go, you know what? Everybody relax. If you remember, Case, you remember their start last year, the Oilers, and how bad? It was bad enough where they had to fire the coach. Everything was the end of the world, and they didn't have a goalie. And what are we going to do with McDavid? And then they made it to the seventh game of the Stanley Cup Finals. So good teams will find a way, right? You've seen that before, knowing what you know in Tampa. They didn't always start out great.
Oh, no. Find a way was our motto, and we found a way. Also, we have a Nick Paul that does it all and all the other rhymes and riddles that I can throw at you, but I'm sure nobody wants to hear me do all of that. Another team that we probably got to look ahead to in terms of playoffs, I will say probably the first 2 weeks of the season. I didn't know what to make of the Hurricanes, and I didn't really think they were that great defensively, and then all of a sudden they just started to shake things up. You got Natchez, who's been impossible to keep off of the point board, but more importantly, you got not great news coming out of the goaltender conversation. Of course, Frederik Andersen was put week to week. Now that looks like it's going to be longer. That just came out earlier today, actually, while you and I were talking on NHL Today. Then Kochkov. I mean, he's injured and banged up now. So you have two goaltenders, your top goaltenders that have gotten you through the past few seasons, not being able to be in action over the course of the next few weeks. So what do we make of the Hurricanes?
Tell you what, I was so impressed with them the other night, seeing them in person. And I got to be honest, I didn't recognize or I'm not really able to pronounce a lot of their names right now. So you're going to have to carry me on that a little bit.
I got you.
Show off. That's good. But I was like, wow, these guys are fast. These guys are physical. Their power play moved the puck great. Stahl looks like he's about 80 and he still does what he does. Like he's still just a physical presence, great face-off guy. And I'm like, they have a nice mix of young guys that can fly, veteran guys that know how to win, and then you look over on the bench and Brindamore's just like another day. Everything is just another day. And they're going to find a way to get over the hump and get into the Eastern Conference Finals or actually back to the Stanley Cup. They're going to be a hard out case. They're not that's not going to have any real extended long losing streaks, like maybe 3 or 4 games at most.
I'm excited to see how things shake out for them. Plus, Rod Brind'Amour is one of my favorite coaches, now Hall of Famer. Like, you can't root against him. It doesn't matter what that roster looks like. You cannot root against Rod. At least I decided not to. Now, when we get back from the other side of this break that we're coming up against, I have to pick your brain on some division conversations because as of this week, the New Jersey Devils are probably the sexiest team in the Metro. Not to piss off anybody in New York. I'm sorry, but we continue to hang with Dave, talk hockey. We're going to talk some Penn State football. Could be good, could be bad. Who knows? And get your take on this boxing match coming up down the stretch as well. So don't go anywhere, fans. Stick with us here on SportsGrid TV and stick with us on the other side of this quick break.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, hey, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? Because I was looking down and did not know we were getting...
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Back at it with Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV, bringing some life to your Friday night. We got plenty of sports to tap into, but me and my pal Dave Sherpan were just talking some hockey, trying to figure out what teams you shouldn't harshly judge when it comes to the playoff conversation, because we know 82 games is a lot. November is early. Let's not be dramatic, although I like to sometimes. For the drama of things, my line mate knows where I'm going with this. Let's talk a little division conversation, because you've got this Rangers team. Everybody would say that they're top of the Metro, can't compete, don't come within an inch of what they're going to produce this season. But if we're counting it down to the week, the sexiest team of the week was the New Jersey Devils, not the New York Rangers, because unfortunately they fell to the Jets. And then before that, I mean, they were able to win versus the Red Wings, but they had their number all season. Before that, Sabres had their number. So when it comes to the Devils, back-to-back, they were able to put a beating on the reigning Stanley Cup champions. So looking at these numbers, Metro, Hurricanes on top plus 160, Rangers right behind plus 240, Devils at plus 260, Capitals at plus 900, Islanders 21-1. And I think I said it earlier, I'm not sure if you were on the show yet, Islanders aren't particularly a team to count out, not to get to the top of the Metro, but they always find their way into the postseason for the most part. They're young guys, their call-ups are starting to perform, and plus they should get back their top line here shortly. So, I don't know, those are my little thoughts and spiels when it comes to that. But what do we shake of the Metro?
It's, dare we say is it the best division in hockey? It's pretty close.
It's real close.
It's deep. Right? Like, it may not have the best single team, but it's going to be the hardest division to get out of. And I think that's where we have to start with the futures. Who is equipped best to get out of that division? Despite the fact that some might say that they don't have the best goalie. It would probably be the Rangers. I don't know. I've heard it on the street, Case. Might have maybe when we're sitting on the bench waiting to take our next shift, I might have heard the whispers while you're passing down the water bottle. The Rangers are the team to beat. At least they were before the season. The Devils are right there, though. I mean, the Devils game last night against the Panthers down in Florida. Boy, they played a really good road game. Physical. There was fights and they won. Like, I love what New Jersey has done building the team. Do they have enough goaltending? Case.
Markstrom has actually, all the hype around him, I think he's lived up to the expectation. Allen's had some shaky games, but he's starting to get, really good in terms of the backup for him. So I would say we haven't seen, the greatest goaltender in some of these matchups hasn't been the one to win. It's what's going on in front of them. A lot of people know my opinion on that. So Markstrom is doing great enough, but then the speed and the production and the way that these lines are starting to come together, we're not throwing them in the blender as much anymore. New Jersey's kind of scary, but no, I'm not going to count out the Rangers quite yet. Sticking with the East for a second, though, we did see the Panthers get beat by the Devils. Maple Leafs, I don't know what to make of this team, honestly, because unless Nylander throws everybody on his back, or Tavares, which we saw in the previous game, you really can't call a card on this. Tampa Bay Lightning, sorry, they're the ones who beat the Jets, just saying, plus 430 if anybody wants to take a look at that. But then there's this drop-off, because what have we seen out of the Boston Bruins? Can't talk about it. Ottawa started off pretty decent, had some injuries, came back, a few strong performances as of late. Detroit Red Wings, they've disappointed me. I'm not going to lie. They can score, but other than that, what's going on? So there is that drop-off that you're not really seeing in the Metro. What do we like in the Atlantic?
I still don't know what to make of it. I know we have a lot of mediocre. Like you just said it, right? Detroit has been a disappointment, and I go, okay, what do we do now? I don't want to make snap judgments. Detroit's winning tonight in Anaheim. All right, you need a play for tonight. Detroit is going to win the game as a small favorite in Anaheim tonight. Anaheim, I'm talking out west now. We'll shift a little bit out here. Vegas is playing Utah. We talked about that earlier. Utah's a hard place to play. The game's tonight. I am thinking the Utah Hockey Club is live tonight. Sorry, my Vegas friends, but they get the second game of that little roadie from Anaheim out to Utah. Utah live tonight. A Detroit case, I think you can do it in regulation. I think they're going to win the game.
All right. I'm not mad about that whatsoever. And plus, Utah has won me over as like another casual fan. I can't lie about it. And their jerseys are pretty sick. Before we move on from hockey, though, who would you want to see in the Stanley Cup, or where are you swayed to believe that these two teams are heading to the Cup this year? Too early to tell, but where would you sway?
Let's see. That's a good question. It's so far in advance that I don't want to say, the Panthers are really good and somebody's going to have to knock them off.
Right.
I'm rooting for the Devils in the East.
I
would love to see a team like Winnipeg and Minnesota.
I love Minnesota.
New blood. If it's not Vegas, listen, selfishly, I want to have the Stanley Cup run happen again in Vegas. And more fun with the kids rooting for that and watching that and going to the parade after they won it. But Winnipeg or Minnesota in the West.
I like it. I am not mad at that whatsoever. Some score updates really quickly. Florida versus Florida State in college basketball. Florida on top 67-54. Rutgers on top 58-40. Cincinnati on top 42-22 at half. And then close call for Purdue versus Alabama. Purdue by 1 point, 37-62. And that puts us at the perfect pivot because guess who's playing Purdue when it comes to football? Penn State. What are your thoughts on Penn State versus Purdue?
Everybody has been, not just on here, but everywhere that I've been on shows and talked to people this week, has told me, knowing that I'm a Penn State grad, that this is the most ridiculous spot and ranking that they could be in when that stuff came out on Tuesday. And I said, you know what's going to happen? They're going to justify it all after they destroy Purdue this week. They're going to win and cover on the road, Case, all right? I don't know how you make a line for these games when they're big mismatches like this. Purdue is 1-8. Let me see. I got my notes. 2-7 against the spread. They're not covering the spread. We are Penn State. Play it. Win by 30+.
We are Penn State. I can slightly root for you. My bestie got her master's there. So don't go anywhere, sports fans. Stick with us here on SportsGrid TV. Follow SportsGrid over at SportsGrid and join us on the other side of this break.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? As I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma will do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You are watching Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV, hanging with Kasey Hudson and Dave Sherapan. We're talking all the things. We left off on some college football. Dave, you said Penn State, they were slightly disrespected when it came to this spread, this talk with Purdue. So stick to Penn State, go with Penn State, and go Penn State. That's the most you'll ever hear me say that, by the way. What's your favorite college football game going on tomorrow? Because there's
I think
a
the one
number
that
of
has
them.
there are,
outside
but
of
the
the
one
Penn
that has the
State.
biggest impact. Right. I mean, I'll watch the Penn State game just briefly, but the one that I think you can't miss are happening a little bit later, just like this fight that's coming up a little bit later tonight. Tomorrow, Tennessee at Georgia. All right. Monster matchup, basically an elimination game. Loser is out. I don't think they can find their way back in. Tennessee's getting a lot of points. We had a guy on BVB today who was in Tennessee. He's a big Tennessee backer. He said Nico's going to play. Nico plays. Tennessee's got a shot to win the game outright. Tennessee doesn't play. I don't think, Nico doesn't play. I don't think Tennessee can win. Now, can they cover? It's a big number. Georgia, let me see my notes right here. 2-7 against the spread, despite being 7-2 during the season, straight up. I hope Tennessee can cover. I hope Tennessee can win because we need clarity and we need a way for Penn State and the Big Ten to get some teams in this thing because they're trying to keep them out. Oregon is playing Wisconsin, and they're going to the jump around. And a lot of people are talking about Wisconsin being live and all this other stuff and a hard place to play and blah, 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 blah. I think Oregon's going to house Wisconsin. That's the other one. And then sneaky case, when you're up late Saturday, BYU is hosting Kansas.
Yeah.
And this is a game. Case, I don't know. Did you watch any of the Holy War with BYU and Utah on Saturday night last week?
Yeah, while I was trying to keep base on all my other notes going on, and I'm over here like, BYU is just going to continue to strive for perfection. And then I was like, wait, what did I just see there? What was that play? What just happened? It was insane. It was actually insane. I could not look away for a second because something was happening at every moment of this football game. So, yes, I caught the mess.
So they were 2.5 to 3-point favorites at Utah. Now they're at home and 9-0 on the season, 7-2 against the number, and they're only -2.5 or 3 at home against Kansas. Jayhawks, best team in college basketball. Football team, not so much. Okay, 3-6 against the spread on the season. I can't believe. I feel like I'm missing something. I thought this line would be a lot higher, 4.5, 5. Maybe even 6, and they're all my sharp guy buddies, all the rhombuses, all the parallelograms, they're all on Kansas. So you want an interesting game? That's an interesting game. I hope BYU wins and keeps marching along toward a Big 12 championship appearance against Colorado, who's going to beat that said Utah team that we were just talking about.
I'm here for BYU. I'm here for more perfection, that's for sure. Speaking of perfection, I don't know if we can call this boxing match coming up here perfection. I know that there was a lot of perfect marketing to some degree, but I don't know if we'd call it perfection. We saw some open hand face slapping at weigh-in. We've when you feel like you've seen it all, you haven't, especially not now, not in this era, that's for sure. But how do we even start looking at this? Because I take it seriously. I want to take it seriously, but we talked with Scott earlier. He said you don't go against Tyson here, but where do we lean?
It's one of those situations where it's youth, right? Jake Paul's 27 years old. Mike Tyson's 58. A lot of guys are just betting on that alone. But don't forget, if it's short, if it's quick, Mike Tyson's probably going to win. If there's going to be another fight, Mike Tyson is going to win. They have to sell a rematch if this is a money thing, right? So maybe Mike Tyson will actually win, and people are betting it. My buddies have told me this has the handle of an NFL playoff game. Case, that's serious. I don't know if we can take it serious. I can't wait to watch it. I don't know if I'm even going to bet it. But my little one told me, go tell Kasey. She came up during a commercial and said, tell Kasey that I think Jake Paul's going to win. I said, okay.
We're going with what she says. She's the queen. Let her know that she is the queen. And make sure that you guys are rocking with Dave and Scott and In Game Live coming up next here on SportsGrid TV as you get ready to go for that one. We ran through all the things going down on this Friday night slate, making sure we gave you the best odds, lines, and angles. But more importantly, there's so much coming up tonight. There's more coming up tomorrow. All of your coverage from college basketball to college football to the NBA Cup to college football and college football today. All of your coverage is going to be right here on SportsGrid TV. It's a wrap for me on this Friday night, but everybody have a safe and exciting Friday.